It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn. I'm excited today. I'm here actually in my newfound space, and it's an open space, that is, and I think it's appropriate for the guest that I have today. And we're actually in the Ozark Natural Foods Co-op Onyx Coffee Shop area, which you guys have probably heard about and you've probably seen. It's really, really a nice space, and so I'm excited to be able to give them a little plug because ONF is near and dear to my heart. I shop here all the time, but I also I think it's just a great place for folks to come. So I am sitting down with Shelley Mouber, and Shelley Mouber is a local, I won't say she's a local legend, but she is a local artist.
Oh my goodness.
She's well known. We have a lot of common friends, and we connected about a year ago, and I was excited to sit down with her and learn more about her background. And she's an amazing artist. And so we finally got this thing together. And with everything going on with COVID, it took forever for us to coordinate it. But
we kept running into each other.
We kept running into each other, and that's a good thing. And so without further ado, Shelley, welcome to the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, I just wanted you to do one thing, and that's to share your superhero origin story. How did you get here?
My superhero?
Yeah, your superhero, because we all have one, right? And I think that's the thing. A lot of times when people don't know this or that about us, it creates instant conversations, it creates awareness, and I think we all have a story to tell. And I'd love for you just to give us a Cliff Note version of you and how you got to where you are now. And certainly, what propelled you to be an artist, become an artist?
Oh, well, I think there is journey for all artists on how they venture into their true self and their work and whatnot. I was born in California, raised in San Diego, and my mom moved here. I lived with my father, and my mom moved here in 1983.
Okay.
And I visited her on summers for about 6 years. And then my senior year, I moved here of high school, and I moved to Rogers, totally different place. In 1989. And Fayetteville was the wild place.
Yeah.
It was where we went to do things that we weren't supposed to do.
Oh, okay.
In high school.
Yeah.
Which wasn't that big of a deal, believe me.
Right.
Considering I'd just come from San Diego. But after that, after high school, bummed around for a while, did some Grateful Dead touring. And
so you're a Deadhead.
Yeah.
A little one.
Yeah, a little one.
Okay.
Little one. And came back to go to college and had my daughter my freshman year of college, which created a very difficult college experience, but worthwhile because I learned quite a bit and met an amazing community of which I'm still connected to. 95% of my friends here that I went to school with or that were in graduate school when I was in school.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got to Fayetteville.
Yeah. So you went to the U of A?
Yeah, went to the U of A.
Okay,
yeah, and I
great.
studied sociology. In my last semester, I thought about changing to art because I was so completely drawn to it and fascinated. And my uncle, who was an artist, is recently passed away. And he said, no, don't go to art school. It'll ruin you. So I had already taken all of my electives and written my papers. So I just finished out with sociology.
Okay, that's fine. That's nothing wrong with that. So when would you say the art bug bit you?
Oh, I mean, when I was a child.
Okay.
My uncle has always been an artist and growing up in the Bay Area, I got to experience a lot of really unusual art.
Yeah.
Installations, shows, the culture, the lifestyle at a very young age, and didn't get reintroduced to it until I went back out to California after high school and lived with him for a little while and just got back into being with him at the studio and watching him reclaim objects and create things out of art that I would have never thought of initially. I just didn't see things the way he did. And when I started to look at perspective and all of the things that he was showing me about colors and people's styles, I was just mesmerized.
Yeah.
And the one art class I took in college, I got a D in. It was ceramics, and it was...
Clearly that art teacher did not know what they had.
There was a story behind that. But anyway,
yeah.
It's just funny because that's literally the only art instruction I've ever had.
Right.
And didn't do well.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of a sign for me. But
I mean, so you come here, you get influenced by your uncle. He's out in the Bay Area. Of course, things in the Bay Area, I lived out there for 6 years, so I get it. But coming here, how did the Ozarks, how did Northwest Arkansas influence your artwork?
Oh, well, that is key.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I feel like I was made comfortable with in California was that, in my life, was that my uncle was gay. And this was in the 80s, the height of the AIDS crisis.
Right.
And he was HIV positive. And, so I've been through that. He lost his partner in 93.
Mm-hmm.
It played a huge role in my life, in my mind. I've always felt the need to advocate for others. Yeah, we had a difficult childhood, and I just can relate to social issues, and I try to advocate with my art. And I would like to say that that's probably the way that Northwest Arkansas plays into my art, is that all of my art, every single piece that I do, has a social basis to it.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that my art is advocating for disenfranchised, LGBTQIA+, mental health awareness, anxiety, everything that's involved with invisible diseases.
Sure. Just
really any marginalized group is, to me, something that we need to embrace, because if we don't help one another, where are we really?
Right.
I mean, because if you can't lift one another up and celebrate everyone's successes, you're not in the right group, or you just don't realize that if you're winning, your friends are winning. Your friends are winning. You're winning.
Right.
And we all can succeed.
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game at all. So
not.
yeah.
No.
And I think we're slowly getting to there as a society in a lot of places, but we still have room for growth. And I think that's the challenge that we face, right? As human beings, we're constantly evolving, constantly iterating. And I would say, what would be, when you think of it from that perspective, how has your artwork iterated over time? How have you, because I've seen some of your work that I was just blown away by, and I can't remember exactly what the material was, but you recycled some things and you made these really great prints that were, they were like women or something like that.
Okay, so that is the closest to my heart is the body positive movement.
Sure.
And LGBTQ.
Right.
But yeah, the body positive movement has a lot about self-acceptance, self-love,
mm-hmm.
Just a body normative experience for all humans, thin, fat, short, tall, whatever.
Round, doesn't matter.
So, but with my skin, what I do on my people, the portraits that I do,
sure,
I look through all of the magazines or whatever I have been donated. I get lots of donations of paper. I've got my whole studio is paper.
Yeah.
It is just filled to the brim with paper, but I'll take it. And I like to take things I see and put them away, and I might have something for a few years, and then I think, oh, I've got that great piece of paper with all of those countries on it.
Right.
I'll use that.
Right.
So it's kind of funny because it stays in the recesses of my mind.
Right.
When I don't remember that I have it, and then I call on it. It's kind of providence.
Yeah, no, I love that. And when you described what you were using to create it, I was just like, oh my gosh.
That's what I was trying to get at. I'm sorry, I deviated there. But the skin, what I do is go through all the photos. And probably when I first started doing collages, I started to realize using magazines, it didn't matter what type of media print it was.
Yeah.
It was impossible to find any diversity in it.
Yeah, right.
So I actually, just to complete one of my pieces, I have to get somebody to donate me Essence magazines or other magazines that show lots of diversity, and fashion magazines, honestly, you would think they would be the worst. They're not.
Yeah.
It's just mainstream printing, it's crazy. So I would take all of the different shades of skin that are photos of skin,
mm-hmm.
and then I combine them, and that way it's representing all people and not just one person, a Caucasian individual, but it represents all people of color, Hispanic, Native American.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Correct. And so I like to bring that, and that is my attempt at a statement of inclusion.
Okay. I love that. So that's kind of really what informs your artwork.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's behind every piece.
So I know you've been called a social, and you talked about this just a little bit. I spoke to one of your friends who's a mutual friend of ours, Kenya Christian. I'll give her a shout out. She's been on the podcast.
Her.
Yeah, Kenya did
and she's my fellow board member at Phoenix Art Gallery.
Phoenix Art Gallery, right. And would you tell people where this art gallery is?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Phoenix is in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and it's on Spring Street in Fayetteville, in the square, across from the old post office, and it's a Cheers restaurant now.
Okay.
And we've got a beautiful, beautiful mural that stands out on the square, done by Octavio Logo and Eugene Sargent. And we're really excited about Phoenix and what we've got in the future. We are actually changing spaces. We're still trying to determine where we want to, enlarge our membership and develop programs in education and art education and advocacy, and just continue to embrace the Northwest Arkansas art community. So we're in a time of transition. We just got out of being an private entity, LLC, to a 501c3. And so we're during the middle of the pandemic, transitioning into a nonprofit has been challenging.
I'm sure. Yeah.
We've got awesome people on the board. So
yeah, as it is for most people right now. I mean, for-profit businesses are having a hard time. I mean, everybody's having a go of it right now, right? And I think that is the challenge that we're all facing. But the one thing that I can say about Northwest Arkansas is that people tend to rally around the flag, if you will. And is that true?
So true.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that took me a while to get used to from California, because I remember when I first moved here, somebody waved at me when I was driving. And, living in a metropolitan area.
Yeah, of course.
If somebody waves at you, you immediately take defense. Like, what did I do?
Or did they just flip me the bird? Yes, what's going on?
That was exactly what I thought. And I kept thinking, why is everybody waving at me? That's really creepy.
Yeah, it is.
But now I've realized, that is a genuine, just honest to goodness kind of Midwestern thing, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, Midwestern, or I like to say Mid-South thing,
Mid-South,
right? Because it's so hard to kind of place, because when people ask me where we are, and I'm like, well, look, we're almost into Oklahoma, right? And so when you think positionally, Missouri, Oklahoma, you got Kansas up there in the corner. It's kind of weird how everything is, but that's just it. And so I think there is an atmosphere about this place that affords us that civility that you may not find in other parts of the country. And,
I agree.
Yeah. And so I think more than anything else, and I tell my wife this all the time, I'm thankful for that, because, there are just a lot of places where everything is just in your face, and that may or may not necessarily be good, but it's what it is. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that is one thing I have been grateful for every day during the pandemic, that I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm not in a larger community, because not that larger communities are any different, but I like being in this size community that we're in, because like you said, there's just so much support, building one another up. And I was noticing on social media the other day that there are quite a few of people that I know that are doing drives for toys and things for the holidays for the less privileged. Yeah. And I just like being a part of helping other people get through this life.
Right. Yeah. No, that's it. And it's so funny because, as I've gotten to know people here, I always find that I find the same people connected with like individuals, right? Like I think Octavia Logo. Yeah. So I don't know why I have Spencer.
Heath?
No, I'm thinking of somebody else then.
Okay.
I'm thinking of the woman that created the Love Conquers All.
Oh, Olivia Trimble?
Olivia Trimble.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
Sweet City Woman on
City
Woman on Instagram.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. So and you see you threw out the hashtag like that. I'm going to talk to you about Instagram in a second, but I know that you are connected with her. You know her, and I've realized
we all kind of know one another
a
little bit if we don't know each other well.
Right. But I love that here is that, there is, a fairly close-knit art scene, and there's a lot going on. And I know I got involved with the local Rotary here in Fayetteville, and one of the members of that Rotary runs a gallery in downtown Fayetteville. And now, of course, her name would escape me. Is it Sharon?
Sharon Killian.
Sharon Killian.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
I don't know Sharon, but yes, I know Art Ventures.
Yeah. So Art Ventures is a beautiful, beautiful studio. I've been there for a couple of shows.
A new location.
Right. Yeah.
It's exciting for Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but that's just it, though. What people don't realize is that, you have so many outlets here. Like, because people think, oh, Northwest Arkansas, there's not much going on. And I'm like, well, slow your roll there. We've got Crystal Bridges and now the Momentary.
Right.
And to me, like the Momentary kind of is a perfect dovetail right into, the type of presenter and artist that you do, artwork that you do, because it kind of opens up for the creator a space, right, for you to be able to share that. And it's connected with such a prestigious, venue.
Right.
And that's what's really cool.
I have a friend actually that has a studio down on Archibald Yell, and her name's Brandy Lee, and she owns Big Sister Studio.
Okay.
And she has an exhibit right now at the Momentary that is a statement on Nick Cave's installation at Crystal Bridges. They reached out to many artists and included them in a exhibition, and Brandy was one of them. And her work is amazing. And it's so exciting to see friends get these big shots. And she won the Fashion Week last year.
Yeah.
She was already a big hit.
Right.
But it is very exciting. And congratulations, Brandy.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I love that. So, yeah, I would imagine that at some point in time in the future, your work will show up at the Momentary.
I hope.
Yeah, why
that would
not?
Be nice.
So, because, I mean, obviously you mentioned Instagram a few minutes ago, and would you mind sharing your Instagram handle so people know?
My Instagram handle is artist Shelley Mouber, no spaces, SHELLEY MOUBER.
Yeah, and we'll put a link
Instagram.
to it. We'll put a link to it on the show notes. But I love your hustle on Instagram. Because, you hear this thing, and one thing that I haven't really shared a lot on this podcast is a little bit about my father. My father was an artist. He was a quote-unquote starving artist. He was an art teacher, had a good job as an art teacher, but he was truly an artist. And he was an artist stuck in an art teacher's body, if that makes sense.
I know some of those.
Yeah, right? You know what I'm saying?
And
he's stuck in an art teacher's body. Yeah,
yes.
It's where it's like you can't go out and just completely do your art on your own because you won't be able to feed yourself. But you could possibly, if you step out in faith, right, and just try to do that.
Well,
it's
that's
tough.
what I've been doing for the last several years, is kind of being that starving artist and just being able to focus on my artwork and living pretty minimally.
Yeah. But you've developed a following,
But recently,
yeah,
about, I guess, I don't know, maybe spring and end of spring, I really seemed to just be getting a great deal of work from outside of the area. And I was able to move closer to the square. And I just love being, able to walk to the co-op every day, and walk up to Mount Sequoia is just basically above my house. And
it's an inspirational place to be.
It is amazing. I am very grateful every morning that I'm in that neighborhood, and I've got tons of friends within a block or less houses away.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, during this pandemic, it just feels like we're closer when we're all having to be apart, especially if we live alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's important. So let's get back to just some of your Instagram tips.
Okay.
How are you so prolific on Instagram? And you, it's not that you're just unashamedly posting stuff and just putting it out there. No, you're very meticulous about the way that you present your art. And I would love for you to kind of share that, because I know we have people that are artists that listen to the podcast, and others that might be thinking about, well, I'm a creator, I'm a maker.
Well,
I want to put myself out there.
Yeah, Instagram has been key for me. That I have 75% of my sales are Instagram, 50% of my sales are local, or 30%. I probably have a little bit more outside. I ship everywhere. I have shipped pretty much all over the world. So it's not confined.
Yeah.
And that's what's very exciting. And what is really exciting about social marketing or digital marketing is just the potentiality of your audience. Because I do love Northwest Arkansas. It's wonderful. But Instagram, goes way above that. And so once you kind of figure out how to navigate it, it's a really great tool.
So what's the biggest tip that has helped you gain some
30
additional
hashtags.
exposure? What'd you say?
30
hashtags. Okay. So what are your favorite hashtags?
Well, my favorite ones are Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Okay.
Northwest Arkansas artists.
Sure.
Arkansas artists.
Yep.
Kind of just bringing in the locals.
Ozark. Hashtag Ozark.
I do Ozarks artists.
Yeah.
I switch them up every time.
Yep.
Because it's just the way the algorithms work and the way they suggest images for people to look at.
Yeah.
And so I try to just throw in some random words.
Yeah.
And I swear, it seems like all the time I'm just thinking off the top of my stream of consciousness kind of words and attaching them to, you
never know.
Instagram handle.
Well, some of that's a little serendipity that happens.
It is,
and people
absolutely.
just kind of stumble. That's how I've stumbled upon some people that I follow on Instagram now that I wouldn't have normally followed, but for whatever reason, I was looking up a hashtag or just looking up something and it just shows up.
Yes. And that would be the thing that I would say to people that aren't super Instagram savvy.
Yes.
Is that the more time that you put into liking, commenting, sharing, and posting,
say that, yep.
Your algorithms are there. Your work is thrown out there.
Yeah.
So I have, I don't know, close to 900 followers.
Sure.
Okay. Which is nothing.
Yep.
In the Instagram world. But I don't care because it's the quality of who follows me.
Exactly.
Not the quantity.
Right.
And I've got a fantastic group that follows me and they share my work. And all of the time I have my work shared in other countries and I have people reach out. And so it's just exciting.
That's good.
It broadens your perspective and your idea of where your art can go.
Yeah, and I love that you share that because I think it is, I mean, with any of these tools that we have at our disposal, they're only as good as how you use them. And the other thing is that there is enough free information out there for you to be dangerous. So you don't have to go buying. I mean, you can buy. You can buy a tutorial or something like that, and
right.
I'm all for that because I create them myself. But I think there's just so much free information out there that you can be dangerous with it.
Right, but I think that the information is great that you can find on the internet about Instagram and whatnot. But really, the real key is putting that time in, and that's why there's a lot of companies that you can hire, the SEO,
sure.
Do SEO.
Yeah.
And they can robotically get you likes and members but you know what? Those aren't going to be the people that interact with you. Those aren't going to be the people that on holidays, reach out to you to do their family photo.
Exactly.
A picture.
Yeah.
Or an interpretation for their fur baby.
Right.
Whatever
Anything.
it is.
Yeah.
And those are the repeat customers I've had is they reach out and ask me to do something for them. And then they, end up following me. And I have people that I make something for a couple times a year.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
That's
it's
awesome.
Fun.
That's awesome. Well, I have a creator question for you because I know my dad, and I know a lot of artists find their groove or their rhythm through music as they create.
Yes, that's
so
what I do.
I'd love to know what kind of playlist do you curate? Do you create art to?
Okay, so that's kind of funny because it really depends on my mood.
Yep.
And if I'm needing motivation, I will always put on WuTang.
WuTang, okay. Cream, get the money, dollar bill, y'all.
Yeah, that's my favorite song.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
yes,
I love that. For those of you that don't know the WuTang reference, you have to check out WuTang Clan. And those guys, that's why those guys like Method Man and Redman and all those guys have gotten so they've gotten a lot of play over the years. I mean, Method Man is a big actor now.
I mean,
he's in a lot of
yeah.
movies, and so is a couple of those guys have died. I think Old Dirty Bastard has died. Excuse my language, but there's a few of them. But WuTang is a very interesting group. And the thing about WuTang that I'll mention, and we'll move on, is that they were unapologetically themselves.
They were
true to themselves. Because
yes.
even then, back in the day when WuTang came
deal.
out, as an African American, a lot of people were like, "Oh, their rap is cool," but those guys are kind of weird, right? They're not like the standard.
Well, they're just extreme.
They are extreme, but I actually really like them. And as I went back over time and started listening to their stuff, I'm like, wow, these guys were prolific
Oh, and they were so political.
They
and
were.
I think
they were
that's
very
what,
much
what made them dangerous.
they came after like Public Enemy.
Yeah,
so
they did.
like they were inspired by Public
Right.
Enemy and others, and
Right.
so yeah, WuTang is, and you know they're a cultural reference. If you hear people talk about them, they talk about them all the time.
Absolutely.
I see guys walking around with the 36 chambers and all this other stuff. I mean, the WuTang is a lot of cultural and pop references to WuTang that still exist to this day. I mean, those guys were big in the 90s.
Well, I remember, yeah.
So yeah, I love that. So WuTang is part of your musical rotation.
It is. It's
Anything
one of
else?
Mine. Yeah, I've got quite a few. So let's see. I was the biggest Smiths fan.
Oh yeah, I love the Smiths.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And I am actually working on a piece right now of Morrissey.
Yeah.
So we'll look for that.
Yeah.
But let's see, the Smiths, and I'm a big into 70s rock too.
Yeah.
I love, Joni Mitchell and all that
6
folk and
long years on your trail.
Yes.
Call me morbid, call me pale.
Yes.
So
that's half a person, and that's my favorite song.
Yeah. Listen, there's something
one.
there's something haunting about his voice.
Well,
that is just it's just
in the Smiths, he still didn't have confidence yet, and he wasn't. I think he was already a narcissist, obviously,
right.
but he wasn't as like publicly. Well, I guess he also hadn't come out, so that might be part of it.
Yeah.
But he just was a little less a braggart.
Yeah.
But now, after I've read his autobiographies and everything,
talented.
The
words, the lyrics are insane.
Yes.
And it's funny because it's like I had a lot of friends that were like, I remember because they weren't somebody that I'd normally listen to. But somebody else was like, no, you got to listen. You got to listen to these guys.
No, that was my genre.
Yeah,
in high school.
And so I listened to them, and I probably discovered them later. I actually discovered them in college in Howard. So like between 87 and 91. So that's when I started really listening to the Smiths. So, but yeah, I mean that's the Dead Kennedys, the Smiths. I mean they were just a number of groups that I started really discovering.
Yeah.
And then the only one that I had discovered prior to that was the B-52s, which is one of my favorites.
I've seen the B-52s in concert.
So
there was a concert at the San Diego Sports Arena, and it was B-52s and Jesus and Mary Chain and Love and Rockets.
Wow.
And Susie and the Banshees.
Yeah.
It was fun.
That must have
been.
And
I know some of my friends listening to this are going to be like, I was there.
I was there. That's cool. I love that. So, yeah, well, no, music certainly inspires art, and art inspires music. So, I mean, I think that goes without saying, but I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your playlist with us and what you have. I'm never going to listen to WuTang the same ever again. I'm going to think about Shelley all the time when I listen to WuTang now. So,
that's funny.
So what's on the horizon? I mean, you've been dealing with this pandemic as we all have. And at the time of recording this, we are in early December of 2020. So even if you're listening to this a year or two later, hopefully by then we have a vaccine and everything is good, but we're still in the throes of this. So I'd be curious to know how you are dealing with this pandemic and, how you're maintaining.
Well, I think how I'm maintaining is keeping busy and focusing on my artwork and trying to disconnect from everything as much as I can. I don't watch the news, and that's intentional.
Yeah.
Because I know enough that I don't need to get it from the news and be upset by it all day.
Yeah.
So I steer clear from that. I have some websites that I trust that I go to for information. But other than that, I like to post on social media and get off.
Yeah.
So,
no, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, that's just kind of the way that it is. And I'm hoping that that we can get back to some normalcy sometime soon. I think we're all dealing. I mean, even the best of us, those that are the strongest of mind are struggling right now.
Absolutely. And I was going to say is that in the very beginning of the pandemic, I did notice that I had a lot of friends that felt this way as well. Now, there are the exceptions, but as an artist, you know that you're kind of reclusive anyway. In most people, they have their time that they create, and that's an alone time anyway.
Yep.
So in the beginning of the pandemic, it wasn't all that different, other than that I couldn't go to and do my normal routine. But in my studio, everything was the same. So initially, everything was okay in that way.
Right.
But I would say probably the midsummer to the end of summer was just, it became too much.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm trying to be very cautious with people that I know that are struggling. I have had mental health, depression.
Sure.
And so I get it.
Yeah.
And that's one of my biggest desires, is to empower people that feel separated by the fact that they might be depressed or anxious during this. They feel alienated from their community or their family. They can't go to holidays, etc. Is to let them know that you're not alone. There are resources. I regularly post them on my Instagram profiles.
Sure.
I try to always be not cautious, but supportive of those that are struggling, because I know what it feels like.
I mean, mental health is to me is one of the biggest issues.
Absolutely.
Or rather, we've made it a non-issue, even though it is an issue, meaning that we tend to ignore those things that we don't like to talk
but it's
about.
So much better than it was when we were in high school.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
People were just signed off as crazy and just
and there were a few people I grew up with that had some challenges because of peer pressure and the like. But it would have killed them had they had Instagram and Facebook. It would have totally. So I am so. Every day I deal with, I have 3 boys, 15, 14, and 10, and I am highly acutely aware of how powerful social media is in their lives.
Yes.
And how it controls things, and it can control a narrative that you don't want to exist.
I can't imagine. I'm so thankful, honestly, that my kids are older than that. My son both of my kids are on social media, but they're old enough to remember what it was like before. Yeah. Especially my daughter.
Yeah. My kids don't understand.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah. Gen Z nowadays, those kids that were born after 97, 98, it's hard.
Right.
They just don't have a frame of reference. They don't know things before the internet or anything like that.
Absolutely. And so, I'm thankful that my kids have that sense, and that we can, that I don't have to patrol them like a lot of the parents now.
Right.
I honestly cannot imagine what it's like right now during the pandemic to have children. I have so many friends that are attempting to work full time or create full time and then homeschool. And I don't know.
Like I say, and I'll use this overused golf reference. Everybody, every family, every parental unit, every kid is getting a mulligan right now. And in a mulligan in golf is what they give you. They just give you some strokes and just say, hey, you know what, we're gonna give you a mulligan on this hole. Don't worry about it. Because I think that's just kind of, we all need that right now, because otherwise
and that's actually something that I have in one of my stories on Instagram right now, is a statement by a psychologist, a PhD, that says that we're all just expecting too much of one another right now during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We can't be there for everyone like we would like to be, or we just can't hold expectations of anyone right now.
Yeah.
It's just not fair.
It isn't. And, the other thing, too, is one of those creeds that we need to really follow now more so than ever before, is that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. So it's like, because, it's like, it's those age-old grandma references, right? Your grandmother, your grandparents, or your great-grandparents kind of gave you the golden rules, and we seem to not be following those golden rules as much as we should. But that's a whole different conversation.
Well, that's funny that you say that, too, because I think I've told you this before, that my grandfather was the voice of San Francisco for 30 years.
Oh, you did mention that to me. Right,
right. He was in PR.
Okay.
Which, at the time was social media in a way,
Right, exactly.
And so he was the public relations director for BART for forever, until they transitioned from typewriters to computers.
Wow.
And he'd been a trained journalist, and he had worked for the Washington Post and everything. And so he went into BART as a journalist, but got kind of pushed into public relations.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting now that I got to visit him all the time in his work environment.
Yeah.
Or several times, not all the time, but enough to know what it was like to go into a room and there were computers, and it was like the whole room from 12 feet high. Were
now
computers.
We carry a quality computer right here in our pockets. So
I wish my grandfather could
funny.
see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny because BART stands for Bay Area Rapid Transit, and that is the local transit system. And they were famous back in the 70s for having the most comfortable seats in transit. Plus, they used to pipe in music. And I remember when
they
did pipe in music for and
not
they don't
the best transportation now, but
yeah, but it's still reliable.
Yeah, it's reliable.
But trust me,
right.
the thing I like about BART is that it takes you pretty much everywhere you need to go.
Absolutely.
In the Bay Area,
In
which
South
is really
Bay too.
cool. Yeah, exactly. So listen, as we wind up, I'd love for you just to kind of share, just for somebody listening that's thinking about moving here to Northwest Arkansas, share your why. Why make your case for, why they, what makes this place so special? I mean, you've already said a number of things, but just
I think that it's definitely something you need to come and experience because every perspective is coming from, it's all coming from a different place.
Yeah.
But what I value is the hospitality of people, the welcomingness, and the community, the sense of community. There is nothing like it.
Yeah.
I've lived many other places and
it's not the same. It's not the same. And like what I tell people is, I mean, again, not that Northwest Arkansas is an anomaly in the state of Arkansas, but it is. It kind of is.
Yeah.
It kind of is. I mean, but it's starting to emanate and go out further, right? Like it's starting, we're starting to affect those people that are in Tulsa and other places.
Well, and that's absolutely a whole nother conversation.
It is.
But now that Crystal Bridges is opened,
yeah.
I mean, really, since Walmart has expanded, that's what brought so much to the area. In the terms of Benton County, that's really blown Benton County out of the water.
Yeah.
When I moved here, Bentonville had one stoplight.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's much different now. And it just,
I don't even
even in the
it
last 20
sometimes.
years. Yeah. I've talked to people that say even in 95, they were like, this is not the same. It's kind of like Atlanta before the Olympics. Atlanta was a sleepy southern town before the Olympics. It was kind of big, but after the Olympics, and now if you go to Atlanta, you don't recognize it. It's just not the same Atlanta. It's not your grandfather's Atlanta. So,
and I want Fayetteville to slow down a little bit.
I hear you. And I think we will. I even with the number of people that they expect us to have by 2040, I still think we have plenty of space. So, I mean, I think there are interesting things.
There is wonderful things.
Last thing, what's your favorite restaurant around here? And I don't want you to get any of your chef friends in trouble.
No,
but
I'm going to be honest. My go-to?
Yeah.
Hugo's.
Okay, Hugo's. Yeah. Their fries are amazing. Yeah.
I mean, there's several restaurants, but I love Leverett Lounge as well.
Yeah, Hannah is great.
There,
so Hannah is great.
And
the
Hannah's
food
awesome.
is amazing.
And, Ben and Hannah are amazing people.
Absolutely.
And doing holidays, which I guess this won't be heard at Christmas time, but our show is, gift market show is open right now.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly put out a post about that, and I'm not exactly sure when this comes out. It might come out before Christmas, but we'll put a post out, and we'll make sure that information is there.
December.
Good. So we'll do that. So Leverett Lounge, Hugo's, those are two places that I would certainly encourage anyone that's coming down here to Northwest Arkansas to check out.
I don't let anybody that visits me not go to Hugo's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Their sandwiches are great. So I definitely would encourage that. And I love the little setting down low. I mean,
that is true Fayetteville from the 80s, I remember.
Right. So that's right. Yeah, I love that. So, this is great. Well, Shelley, thank you so much for coming on this.
I'm so glad we finally get to do it. It only took us 12 months.
Year finally coming together. We've been through and are going through the pandemic. There's still so much happening, but we finally got together, and I really appreciate you taking time to share your superhero origin story, share a little bit about your artwork, and I'm going to post all of this information in the show notes so people can see what I've seen that has impacted me, because I really do love art. And I mean, as being the child of an artist, I've always appreciated great art, and I think that art is a part of life that we can never ignore, or we should never ignore.
Well, and I would like to bring that one thing up really quick, is that is one thing that I would really like to highlight for the pandemic, is that we've all had to turn inwards. We've all had to isolate more. And what has been getting us through? It's not just a visual art, but it's sound art, it's performance art, it's any type of creation.
Listen, this podcast has been getting me through it. I've been recording these podcasts both virtually and in person, and I mean, we are doing this in person, but a lot of these
are the things that get us through.
These are the things. You're absolutely right.
And I'd also like to say that the other thing that I'm very passionate about with my art is to be kind to one another, because you don't know the battles that people are dealing with on the inside. Their life may look perfect. I guarantee you it's not.
Yeah, it could be a sugar honey iced tea show.
Right. And so we just all have obstacles that, that we don't share with others. And so just be kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, man, you have You've laid it out nicely, and I really appreciate you doing that. Thank you so, so much. And I hope that your friends and all of those that are part of I Am Northwest Arkansas tribe enjoy this as much as I have. So
well,
thank you so
I hope
much.
so, because I know that you're a big deal too.
Oh, I don't know about all that. So
well, you can get embarrassed about it, but
I'm just doing what I'm trying to do. So
you're awesome, and your show is fun, and it's very engaging, and I have really enjoyed being a part of it. And I also just value your friendship. It's
Thank you
been
so much.
great knowing you the last year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. More than anything else, the friendships that I am creating because of this podcast have been timeless and have been perfect. So,
and especially this year, it's just everything just seems to mean more.
Exactly.
At least to me.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, Shelley, thank you so much for coming on.
Randy,
we really
thank
appreciate it. All right. Folks, there you have it. Another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Shelley was amazing. I really want you to check out her artwork. I'll be sure to put up, and give me your Instagram.
Artist Shelley Mouber.
Artist Shelley Mouber, and that is SHELLEYMOUBER.
Mm-hmm. Okay? It's artist in front. It's all one word.
It's all one word.
Yeah.
Artist Shelley Mouber. So you can just look her up on Instagram. Check out her artwork. You'll see what I'm saying. Once you see it, you'll be like, oh yeah, Randy was right. So anyway, we appreciate you. Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, check out her artwork, and you can get more information and more details from all the things that we talked about on the show notes at IamNorthwestArkansas.com. I really appreciate you guys taking time to listen to this. As always, please, when you get a chance, rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to this podcast, whether it's Apple, Google, Stitcher, SoundCloud, no matter where you can find it. You can also find us on Alexa, as I always like to remind people. Just say, hey, Alexa, play the latest episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast, and Alexa will oblige you and play that for you. So,
cool.
Yeah. So please, we appreciate you doing that, and continue to support what we're doing here to tell people stories like Shelley's story that we just shared with you. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And as always, we come out every Monday. So be sure to tune in, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll be happy to allow you to be a part of the tribe I Am Northwest Arkansas. So
it's a good tribe.
It is a good tribe. Yes, it is. So that's all I have for you today, and I will see you next week. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.